What's up, guys? I'm back, El Aficionado here, bringing you the highlights and player ratings from last night's United States win over Mexico. It's always good to beat a rival, especially Mexico. So, I'm excited. Hope you're excited. Let's get in here today. So, the United States beat Mexico 1-0. Is there any sweeter taste for a United States men's national team? Fan, that is. No, there's not. There's really not. Being a rival is always a big deal. It's something, I mean, obviously every school wants to beat their rivals. Every team wants to beat their rivals. Every player wants to beat their rivals too because they took home a $15,000 game check for doing that. Holy crap. I'd play for 90 minutes for 15 grand, wouldn't you? Even the freaking bench players take home 15 grand. Athletes, man. Make a lot of money. A couple of highlights from last night's game. I'll get into those here in a minute. You know, it was pretty not so entertaining because it was pretty weak performance, honestly, from both sides. Mexico's red card from, what was his name? Angel Zaldivar early in the second half really changed the game. He came right over the ball in an attempt to, I have no idea, it looked like step on it and pull it back, but he completely missed the ball, went over it, tried to break Will Trapp's leg. Unlucky lad, he's gone. Red card. What do you do? Taylor Twellman, an announcer, is always entertaining when we're playing Mexico. He's so passive-aggressive towards them. If you don't know Taylor Twellman, he used to play for the U.S. men's national team. He's a pretty good announcer, you know, unlike some former U.S. men's national team players who I will not name. His opinions are usually pretty decent, and I mean, obviously he doesn't really like Mexico, but it's pretty entertaining to listen to him try to pretend to be not so one-sided. But the United States did hand Mexico their fourth loss in a row last night. A much depleted Mexico team, 0 starters from the World Cup featured. The United States was not at full power either. You had players like Christian Pulisic absent, and which you could argue would have been the best player on the field. That's arguable, but I don't know. It was a good win. Dave Sarakan still needs to be replaced with a head coach. I'm sorry, man. Number one, your lineup that you came out with was not very good, and number two, I mean, it's just a time for a head coach. These are important growth times from a coaching perspective. These are times when you figure out who goes where, when, and how do we get this whole thing to work. But do not fear. There are still chances for a new head coach to come in and see his team in decent competition. The United States still has Colombia, Peru, Italy, and England at Wembley this year. Those are all big games against quality opponents that the United States can really learn from, especially as young as they are. They're really being thrown into the fire, but I like it from the backroom perspective, throwing them into the fire like this because they need to be thrown in the fire. I mean, they were obviously too comfortable last World Cup cycle, and this time we do not want to repeat of last time. I want to be in the World Cup. There's no questions asked about that. So, yeah. And obviously the biggest takeaway from last night was 9/11 remembering. That was the most important thing that needed to happen yesterday, was remembering those who lost their lives on 9/11. As not a joking matter, that is a very serious moment in our nation's history, and that was the most important thing from yesterday. So, but either way, today's a day of patriotism. United States beat Mexico. I'm very excited. I wore my most American shirt because what screams United States like Orange Beach, Alabama, and an American flag? I don't think anything does. So that's why I wore it. But getting into these player ratings and some little small tips from the game. We have Zach Steffen in goal. I'm going to give him a 7. A solid performance, a couple of decent saves in the first half. Wasn't really tested in the second, thanks to that red card. But he did make one pretty awful mistake when he came rushing out of his box to go grab the ball, and he used his hands outside the box, which he wasn't really punished for, but you can't do that against good opponents and in a real game because you will be carded and sent off. So Zach Steffen gets a 7. Moving out to left back, we had Eric Lehigh. I'm going to go a 5. Wasn't really his fault. He's a natural right back playing on the left. Looked very uncomfortable with his left foot. He's not comfortable being left one-on-one with speedy players either, which is all Mexico swingers are. And so a 5, I mean, he didn't really play all that well. So I think a 5 is fair. Moving into center back, we have Matt Miazga. I'm going with a 7. He really deserves a 6 for his gameplay, but he had the moment of the match for me when he and Mexico's center forward got into it, and Mexico's center forward is all of like 5'8", 5'9", and Matt Miazga is 6'4", and he makes fun of him for how short he is, getting up and measuring the height difference. It was pretty entertaining. But in the spirit of a rivalry, I loved it. Love to see that kind of passion. Not from a man on a yellow. Very questionable decision making there, but hey, you know what? If it works, it works. So he gets a 7, deserved a 6. Not very defensively stable at times. Makes a couple of bad passes. Still learning, but he does need to mature quicker. Mature fast. We need a center back partner for John Brooks, and right now Matt Miazga is probably looking like the man, but not for sure. Moving into our other center back, we had Cameron Carter-Vickers. He had a 6. A lot of his problems weren't really his own making. He got put in a bunch of bad positions with terrible drop passes, but defensively he's not as positionally sound as I want him to be. There are times when he gets caught too high, or when he gets caught a step farther back than he needs to be, and I mean, that's just learning to read the game. He's still young. He has time. But I'm going to go with 6 for Cameron Carter-Vickers. Shaq Moore out on the right. I'm going to go with a 7. Who is that right back for Juventus that also plays for Brazil but never gets to play because he sits behind Dani Alves? That is who Shaq Moore reminds me of. A decent player. Stayed wide. He provided that width. The only one in the first half that was providing width. I mean, that was vital for our team. Provide some service down the wing. Not necessarily good service. That end product was lacking there from tonight from him. But the reason he reminds me of that player whose name I cannot remember, but I will leave it in the comments, is because he's never going to displace DeAndre Yedlin in the first team squad. I'm sorry, Shaq Moore. You're a decent player, but you're never going to. As long as Yedlin is healthy, it's just not going to happen. So, a decent game from Shaq Moore. I give him a 7. Moving into the center midfielder, our CDM, we had our captain, Will Trapp. I'm going to go with a 6. He had decent pivot play. You know, receive the ball, spray it wide, receive the ball, spray it wide. But there are times when I want to see him receive the ball, drive it forward. I want to see that aggression out of Will Trapp. He doesn't really. That's not the kind of player he is, though. Once again, we had 4 CDMs playing in various positions, so that was kind of questionable. But Will Trapp was our pivot man, our fulcrum in the midfield. He performed all right. Out on the left wing, we had Tim Weah. This is a very critical rating, but I'm going to go with a 4 for Tim Weah. He looked incredibly ineffective, except for a little 5-minute spell at the end of the first half and maybe a couple minutes late in the second. He looked indecisive. He was inside too much. He needed to stay wide, provide that width, beat people to the end line with his speed. But he always wants to come in and shoot it, which he does have a good shot, but yeah, end product wasn't on today, and that width was more important to us than what he was bringing in the center midfield. Our center midfield was so crowded. It was really crowding us out of our own game. So Tim Weah gets a 4. I'm so critical of him because I know he's a good player, and I expect more of him. Weston McKennie, I'm going to go with a 4 for him also. He looked very ineffective. His touch wasn't good. His vision wasn't good. He did go out injured late in the first half, and I hope that he's okay because that would be a big loss because he's a fantastic player. So I hope Weston McKennie is okay, but I'm going with a 4 for this game. And our other center midfielder, we had Tyler Adams. I'm going to go with a 7. He scored a goal. That's always going to bump your rating. The game-winning goal, his first ever goal in the U.S. Men's National Team jersey. So that's a big deal. Like I say, he's a natural CDM. I think that he will replace Will Trapp in the first team for the U.S. Men's National Team as that CDM of choice. Because he does what Will Trapp does a little bit better. He can sometimes turn that upfield and take it at people and, drive and create chances, which is what we need out of our center midfielders. Acosta, I'm going to go with a 6. Not necessarily because he played so bad, but because he didn't do what the team needed him to do last night. Kellen Acosta needed to provide width for the team out on the wing. He did not do that. He was constantly cutting inside, constantly congesting the midfield, not beating people to the end line with his speed and playing balls in. No one in the U.S. Men's National Team did that until Anthony Robinson subbed in the game. So, even if you look at the goal, it was created by Kellen Acosta floating inside, creating that space for Anthony Robinson on the wing. That's where he's going to be moving in the future as a center midfielder. Jossie Zardes up top. I have to give him a 6. I mean, he didn't really have any service, but his hold-up play is not good either. So, Zardes has never been known for his hold-up play. His runs are decent. His finishing has improved this season at the Columbus Crew, but we need to see that translate to the U.S. Men's National Team. Moving into the 2 subs of note, I'm going to go with Julian Green because he's going to get an 8 in my Man of the Match award. Mainly because he was the only player that was willing to pick the ball up and drive at people and try to create chances and try to score. Got up a lot of shots early in the second half and late in the second half. He looked very dangerous. Came in for the injured Weston McKennie, and I think he was the man of the match today. And then my other sub of note was left back Anthony Robinson. He came on, natural left footer, really did stretch that field, provided that runs the inline and cross in. That's how the United States scored, was They created a little run down the line. Robinson used his speed to get to the byline, cut it back to the top of the box, and Tyler Adams was able to score it. So I feel like that he's definitely going to be a first-team back moving forward. He is susceptible on the defensive end. He can be turned, especially by quicker players because he is not the fastest. We saw that when Douglas Costa absolutely used him the other night. But he is still young, and he will learn to deal with players like that. So, notes for this game, we need a frickin' coach. Good result, not so necessarily a good performance, but a lot of things to grow off of. So, yeah, be sure to tune in for the Amateur Hour weekly show this week. It's going to be a banger. I'm very proud of it. I'm very happy with it. You're going to love it. It's going to be great. So come back next time. And go USA.